another live recording of the Stacky Benjamin Show. We are just hitting it today. It is summertime, and we've got a lot of juggling that's going on, and it's one member of our panel's birthday, so we need to be respectful of that. And
45. Happy birthday.
36.
we're
36 for the 20th anniversary of your 36th birthday.
I have a trick, actually. So I'm 52, but when I was 49 for the whole year, I told everyone I was 50 because I was just trying it on. So I've been telling people I've been 52 the whole year. So now that it's actually my birthday, it's not nearly as jarring.
Yeah. Does it feel good? Feels good.
Yeah.
It's like it's like an old sweater now.
I could be old, like 54. So like,
easy. Come on. Jeez. Yes. Or older. But anyway.
Or older. I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, carry the 1 plus. No, carry the 4.
Well, you can tell, Stackers, everybody's already surly today and ready to roll. So we're going to roll into it. We don't have Doug. We're going to add him in later. And so
using AI this time.
Yeah, that's right. Here we go. This is going to be the open of this episode. Let me do this. Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacky Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and all week long we've been helping you set goals and take action. Today we'll examine one blogger's take on how to waste your life on stupid shit. This is kind of my episode. It's about time we covered this. Wait, what? Oh, he's being sarcastic? Bummer. It appears this is a great episode if you don't want to waste your time. They should have said so up front. But that's not all. OG's pulling away in our big year-long trivia competition. Can the other participants rally? We hope that rally starts today. And now, here comes a guy who spends less time keeping up with the Joneses, more time investing in the Stackers. It's Joe Saul-Sehy. Hey there, Stackers, and happy Friday to you. And yes, we are investing in you all week. This week, as we help you here in the second half of 2025, get moving, man, get moving. On Monday, we began the week by going through all the amazing mentors we had on this show that helped you and hopefully gave you some hints to start working on some of the cool hacks that they provided. And then on Wednesday, Gary McDermott talked about how to actually set a goal that you're going to achieve. I mean, the Navy uses it where he worked, but multinational corporations use it. And yet when we talk about goal setting, people go, I don't know if I'm going to really set some goals. So today we're going to get a little sarcastic, Doug, as you mentioned, by talking about 6 insanely popular ways to waste your life. And here are 3 people that are going to waste the next hour with us. No, we're not wasting any time. The guy across the card table from me, he doesn't waste time. Mr. OG's here. How are you, man?
I never ramble.
No.
I only have cogent points, exactly bullet pointed every single time.
It is. And the woman whose points are always fungible, Paula Pam from Afford Anything is here.
I put the fun in fungible.
We know people got to listen to an Afford Anything episode to understand what we're talking about. How are you, Paula?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm fantastic. You know why I'm doing great, Paula?
Why is that?
It is because it's our third participant's birthday today. It is amazing. He is spry and young from Earn and Invest. Doc G, a.k.a. Jordan Grubbett, joins us. Happy birthday, man.
Thanks. I get 2 birthdays, right? My real birthday today when we're recording. And then when you play this,
That's right.
It'll be like my birthday all over again. I'm going to tell all my family, we're going to go for a steak dinner tonight and on the air date of the show.
2 steak dinners to celebrate. Well, I think you get to a certain age and there's not enough room for birthday candles. 2 steak dinners kind of makes up for it, don't you think?
Yes. After I stopped counting on one hand, we pretty much got rid of the candles. So yeah, none of those. No more.
It is over. Yeah. Hey, so we are going to go to a piece that is, frankly, to me, a timeless piece. This is from the Mark and Angel blog. I had to look again because I knew it was Mark and Angel, but when I first saw it, I'm like, Mark and Angel, but it's Mark and Angel blog as they hack life. And you know what? This is a timeless piece. It's from 2016. But as I read through this, I went, you know what? These are 6 insanely popular ways to waste a life here. And clearly, Doug, as you mentioned, we're not trying to waste time. We are trying to make sure that you don't waste time. So we're going to dig into this, the six insanely popular ways to waste a life, in just a moment. But first, we have some sponsors that make sure we can keep on keeping on. You don't pay a dime for any of these amazing people and their opinions. We're going to hear from them, and then we're going to dig into how to waste your life. Let's get that rolling. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, this piece I really thought was a great way to cap off a week of getting moving, because I think about, Paula, the first line, or one of the first lines that Mark talks about in this piece. He says, how often are we stuck in a cycle of worry, fear, and other forms of overthinking? How often are we aimlessly distracted? And how often do we participate? Well, I'm thinking for me, Paula, that's about 60% of the time that I'm caught in those things. But seriously, when it comes to money, I feel like the stakes are so high, we make it even bigger. Like I think it's worse when it comes to worry, fear, and overthinking.
Right. And, the challenge with overthinking is sometimes you don't quite know where the line is. Like, what is the line between prudent consideration versus overthinking? It's a continuum. It's a slippery slope. Like, there is no specific point. And I think that's what makes it so difficult to know, how to stay in the 80-20 of efficiency.
That Paula makes a good point, birthday boy, because truly sometimes you overthink, and there's other times somebody will tell you they made a decision. You're like, did you think about that for just a second?
So I'm going to be the thorn in the side today. And that's because I've been thinking about this a lot. So it's interesting. You said this is a timeless piece. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, tell me, when was the height of hustle culture? And it said the height of hustle culture was between 2015 and 2019. This was written in 2016. I think this article is a lot about hustle culture, and I actually think it fits really well into that time period, a time where people were really big into efficiency. This was before the pandemic. And so I don't know. Like, efficiency isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and overthinking and daydreaming are sometimes when some of the greatest, most amazing things happen in our lives. And so I think for this point, as well as a lot of the other ones, you can make a real aggressive argument on the other side that we're not wasting our life or wasting our time at all. Sometimes meaningless distractions are actually fantastic.
Let's set the rubric here. Let's set the bar on what we're going for here, Jordan, which is,
it's my birthday.
It's my birthday.
I get the rubric
with the birthday boy.
I get the rubric.
But who we're addressing specifically are people who show up and they've heard all these great ideas on the Stacking Benjamin show for the last 6 months. And they go, that sounds great. I should do that, right? I should do that. I should get started on that. I should do something. And often the problem is, and this is why I like this point about overthinking. Often we get stuck in this, yeah, okay, if I just get a little more information, right? If I just sit on this a little longer, if I ruminate, if I maybe draw out the mind map, like, then I'll get moving. That's who we're really talking to today.
I hear you. I hear you. I could disagree with some of that. I mean, like, if you are listening to podcasts and thinking I should do that, and years pass and you don't do it, maybe you don't really want to do it. Maybe something else would actually get your fancy. Maybe it isn't the right thing for you. I get it. I get that there's analysis paralysis, and for anything, even something someone deeply wants, yes, maybe they are putting it off and they're getting stuck in analysis paralysis and they're getting too much information and not moving. But I think historically, and actually the context of a lot of what this is saying does kind of fall in a place where I think we can question the basic concept a little bit. But I will play along. I will play along with the rubric. And I will say, yes, it's easy to get caught in analysis paralysis. It's easy to get caught in distractions like social media, et cetera, for sure.
We can do that as we go, and feel free to be the birthday boy of reason today.
Did I mention it's my birthday?
But the reason why people hire a financial planner a lot of the time is because they know they should be doing stuff. Like, I get that sometimes you're like, yeah, maybe I wasn't destined to do that thing. Maybe I didn't really want to run the marathon, or I really didn't want to do the extreme workout or whatever it might be. But man, too often when I was a financial planner, I saw people not get anywhere because they just didn't do anything.
Well, I think, in talking about the analysis paralysis type thing, I think that's really unique to a certain group of people. And what I mean by that is we all process information differently, and we all make decisions with a different set of requirements. For example, if you know somebody who's super analytic and they want to see, maybe they want to see lots of spreadsheets and lots of sourced proof on how to make a decision about something. And then there's other people who want to see the process. They want to see, well, how does this all piece together? I don't necessarily need to get into the nitty gritty of it, but I need to see how this flows into it. And that's how they make decisions. Some people make decisions by trying things out first. So the idea for me, when I hear like analysis paralysis, I'm like, who has that? Because I'm a ready, fire, aim type of person, because like I make decisions by testing things. I go, well, hey, let's try that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. And then adjusting on the fly and for me, that's supernatural. But other people might look at that and go, what are you doing? You don't have any information. How are you making the decision to do that? And it's like, well, because to me, it makes the most sense to take the next step. What I think as it relates to financial planning, where this helps is in thinking about like process or progress on the goals. When we're working with clients, it's like, let's just do something. I don't care if your goal is to retire and you have all this, this big giant thing that you're trying to do, right? But the old, how do you eat an elephant type of thing, right? The first thing is, you got to set up your 401k. So let's just do that. Let's just set up your 401k and do the match and just put it into an S&P fund, and we'll deal with all the efficiency stuff that has to come later. But let's just move the ball one square down the board. Just like that sort of stuff, that momentum to me makes a lot of sense. Now to other people, they might look at that and go, well, hold on, before I do that, shouldn't we evaluate how this fits into cash flow? Shouldn't we evaluate how this works in our tax plan? Shouldn't we? And yeah, that's true. You have to do all those things. But I think where we've been successful from a planning standpoint and working with people over the years has been like, we're action oriented, and doing something a lot of times is better than doing nothing and waiting for the exact right time, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make sense, because when I would work with engineers were always worried that I truly didn't know what I was talking about. And so I would have
We're also very worried about that. I have been for 16 years.
I would have to.
It's a very common theme.
I would have to prove to them that I could go as deep as they could go before I said, you know what, this is irrelevant though. And then once they knew I could go as deep as they could go, then they go, you're right. I just got to get moving.
Yeah, because you're matching their processing of information, right? You're saying, hey, I recognize that for you to make a good decision, you need to have lots of data, and that's totally cool. Let me give you lots of data. I'm not saying that your way is right and my way is wrong. I'm saying like, let me get you to the spot where you can make a decision.
I read this. I thought all 6 of these were truly waste of time. I can't wait to see what Jordan comes up with to tell me that I'm wrong. But I'm not going to go back and forth.
I'm gonna side with Jordan one of these just to screw the rubric up.
That's because all those points I won you. That's all those points.
I don't know what a Rubik puzzle has to do with anything, but a Rubik's Cube has to do with anything.
He's not sure what Rubik's Cube has to do with anything. And you're right. I think he owes you, Jordan, after serious points.
You can have half the trophy.
He's created. But today, Jordan, you're going to be playing for Jesse. But let's not. That's foreshadowing to the middle of the show. Let's start off, Paula, with number 1 here. He says that that a great way to waste your life is we waste our lives with meaningless distractions. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I was at a baseball game recently, and I'm sitting behind a woman who is paid good money for these wonderful seats. She spent the entire game, and when I say the entire game, I'm not kidding, on her phone, barely watching the game. She's playing a video game that she could
Mm,
play anywhere, and she paid for seats. And I thought, which one is the distraction? Is it
right.
is the game distracting her from the video game, or is the video game distracting her from the game? I don't know, but I think we see this more and more all around us. Is there's so many brands pulling for our attention.
Right, right. And it strikes me this article was written in 2016 and it's only gotten worse in the 9 years since, right? This
Yeah.
article came out before the TikTokification of
Oh
our
my goodness.
brains.
And TikTok got me too. That thing has my number.
Yeah. And the deeper that we think, I mean, the phone is a convenient scapegoat, but it goes beyond just our phones. Like Cal Newport talks about this. The more that we um, get into the habit of having fragmented attention, the harder it is to sustain attention in any one thing. So it becomes harder and harder to watch a baseball game or to watch a movie, especially if it's one that requires like really paying attention, or to read something that's difficult. Um, and so I think, but the other side of that is the more you practice by doing those things, the more you say, I'm going to sit down and read something that's kind of a difficult read, but like really, and I'm going to spend an hour, pushing myself through this difficult read. The more you do that, the easier it becomes. It's like a muscle.
Yeah, Catherine Price, one of my favorite writers and thinkers. She has a book called The Power of Fun. She has another book called How to Break Up with Your Phone. She talks about how not only does the phone distract you from stuff that she calls real fun, because when she goes through the scientific data, it's not real fun, but it also makes it harder for you, to your point, Paula, to have real fun
Mm,
because you're always distracted because you're so used to this, quick change that happens on your phone, this whatever. So when you're should be and could be experiencing real fun, you don't. All right, Jordan, I'm coming to you next. Can't believe I'm
Yeah.
doing
So,
this. But no, before we get your negativity.
no, I was going to give a real positive.
Well,
I'm on this one. Yeah.
well, hold on. Let me tell you what he said that he does, because I really like this. He said, to overcome this, I do my best to eliminate distractions, but sometimes they still pop up, right? So I have a ritual where I pause once every 30 minutes and take a deep breath and stretch for 10 seconds. By taking this break, I'm able to catch myself when I've gotten lost again. Then I'll clear the distraction, close any unnecessary windows, noise, and just have one task in front of me and try to stick with it until it's finished. Do you like
Yeah,
that?
I do. I think it's good advice. And look, the American Times survey is a continuous study done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US. And it shows that your average person has between like 4.5 and 5 hours of leisure time a day. And so we're a society where everyone says, I don't have time for anything. And the truth of the matter is, we have plenty of time. I love the word he uses, meaningless distractions, right? Because I would argue that almost everything is a distraction, whether you're watching a baseball game, which might be a great use of your time, or whether you're going through TikTok when you should be watching the baseball game, which is maybe a meaningless distraction. The point is, our lives are filled with distractions, but are you going to do the things that are meaningful for you? And I think that's what he's really pointing to. He's
When
like,
you
it's just
clear
so
that,
easy to get
when you
caught
clear
up.
that, when you clear that time, are you actually going to use it? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to have this 4.5 to 5 hours of free time a day. Are you going to get lost in something that's meaningless, or are you going to do something that feels a little more meaningful to you? And so I think that's actually a really good suggestion. It's like, if you find yourself down the rabbit hole of TikTok and you're like, this has no meaning in my life, then yeah, take that break at 30 minutes and realize, hey, I'm wasting my time here. I could be doing something at least more meaningful. I'd still call it a distraction, but at least it's more meaningful, right?
Yeah, I love that, because sometimes you start off on the right task and 20 minutes in, you get, down this rabbit hole that's going the wrong way. And so if I set the alarm and pause at 30 minutes, then
It's the
then I
damn
bring it back.
notifications. The notifications get you. You're like, you're doing the good thing, and then all of a sudden, you get an email notification, and next thing you know, you're looking at an email and you're gone.
And I love you say that about notifications, because I blocked all my notifications. Block them all, because if I get on something good, I don't want to be notified. But OG, you took that a step further. You've pretty much signed off of most all social media. Catherine Price in her book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, talks about she couldn't believe how much time she had when she stopped paying attention to her phone. Have you found the same thing where all of a sudden you feel like I've got this time that I, quote, didn't have when I was jumping on my phone to check Facebook, Instagram, TikTok?
Well, it's been some time, so it's hard for me to remember the time where I was, but I remember there being a considerable amount of time for between when I said, okay, I'm not going to go on social anymore until, and I remember always grabbing my phone. You grab your phone, and what's the first thing that you do? You swipe up, right? Because to unlock it, and then your thumb like knows the thing, right? It's like over, down, click. And that's where Instagram is, right? Or that's where TikTok is, or wherever. It's like, where it is on you go, I'm going to bury it in a folder on the third page. I'll never
You're still
find
gonna
it.
find
It's like,
it.
wrong, over, down, X. It's there. Like, you just know where it is. And I remember there being a lot of time. I stopped going on socials in November. I don't remember what year, maybe 2022 or 2021 maybe, but it's been a while, and it took the better part of 4 months before I would grab my phone and do something other than navigate to where the folder was for socials. I don't know that there's been a good, like, I don't know that I've done something good with that time instead. I can't promise that I did that. I'm sure I just replaced it with some other nonsense. So I don't feel like I've got this like time where I just sit at my desk, like where everybody else is on TikTok, and I'm like, gosh, I have nothing to do right now. I'm just going to sit here and daydream. Like I do find stuff to do, but I think it's really important. The author here put some restrictions in their calendar or in their, whatever, to say, hey, at 30 minutes, there's a lot of, again, back to systems that you can do to make it so you can work on this deep stuff for a period of time. And, one of it, Joe, is just turning off all your notifications. If you have notifications on your phone, I have no idea why you would, other than like immediate family emergency type stuff. But even then, like, not but 25 years ago, that wasn't a thing. And we managed to all get here to this point without like having Find My or like alert me when my child leaves school, on your phone. Like, you just, they it's a benefit, but I don't know that you need all that stuff on there. But the other thing that I found recently is there is a tool on my computer. It's on a Mac, where it's meant for people that have distraction, like they can't focus, and you can turn it on, and it's just like background noise, like ocean waves or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can look up how to do this. I don't know. It's on my computer, but it's crazy how like in the zone you'll get with just like this white noise in the background. And then when you turn it off, you're like, holy crap, it's so quiet. What is going on? Because it's like this surround sound of background noise. So I use that quite a bit to just go, all right, I need to work on this until I get done with it, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. I'm going to turn this on. I don't have anything else on. It's just me and the computer. And a big piece of that is from a distraction standpoint, like eliminating it as much as you can. My desk right now is a mess, so it's not a great example, but it's so much easier to work, right? Like how many times do you go, hey, I'm gonna take my laptop, go to the coffee shop and knock this out? Why do you do that? Because the coffee shop's a background noise.
Yeah.
Right. The clanging of stuff.
Yep.
You have nothing else to do except drink coffee and work, so you can't go, oh, hey, I haven't read that book yet, or I got so.
Well, and I love that you brought that up. I
tools.
love that you brought that up, and that you brought up that app, because there's one that I use that's a Google Chrome extension, which is Coffeetivity.com, which it makes noises like you're in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah,
choose
just a hum
between
of the
different
background
coffee
noise.
shops.
Yeah.
And as somebody that works from home, I will turn on Coffeetivity. I can't pronounce that word, but Coffeetivity.com. We'll link to it in the show notes. And
Use
I'm in that coffee
technology
shop,
to
OG.
defeat technology.
It
Yeah.
is.
And-
It is. It's so funny. Doc?
It's interesting because what we're really talking about, although we're not saying it, is you're really talking about flow, right? So the opposite of distraction is being in a flow state where you're doing your best work, where you're just so deep in it, you're not noticing time pass. I personally believe that winning the game is spending as much time in flow as you can, right? I think it's just nurturing and good for you. And distractions take you away from that. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about. That's when the coffee house noise or the app
Yeah.
that plays the music or whatever it is, you're trying to really get your brain into that place of healthy work. Of
Let's-
flow.
Well, I'll stick with you for a second. What do you do? Because you have to spend a fair amount of time on social media. How do you make sure you don't get distracted, Jordan?
So what I tend to do is I'll give you an example of writing. One of my favorite things to do is write, and especially when I'm in the midst of writing a book. And so when I'm writing a book, I'll put my headphones in, I always have the same exact classic music I play for writing. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours of classical music, and it does something for me. And I zone into my computer. All my distractions are off. All my notifications are off. And usually I'm either locked in my office or I'll go to like a hospital cafeteria or somewhere where there's a lot going on around me, but I don't know anyone. And that's how I kind of approach a flow state.
You and I have had chats before where you're in a hospital cafeteria.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I tried, we were doing work on our house too. So there was lots of noise here.
Plus,
So
the food's amazing.
it's just an easy space for me I can walk to.
Paula, how about you? Avoiding distractions.
I've got two apps on my phone. So one is native to iPhone, and it's the one in which you can limit the amount of time that you spend on given apps in a given day. So I've got mine set so that I can spend a maximum of, I think, 5 or 10 minutes on Instagram per
I
day.
didn't even know this thing exists. This is
Yeah.
native to the iPhone.
It's native to iPhone.
Like screen
What-
time, right? Is that what it is?
So, yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's something
Yeah, we
like
use it for
that,
our
yeah.
kids, or used to. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I use that in order to limit my Instagram time daily. And then for Twitter and Threads, I've installed the Freedom app. And so with the Freedom app, I've blocked myself from being able to access both Twitter and Threads during any time of day other than 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So that's
That's
the
great.
window. And usually what happens is 8 p.m. rolls around and I'm not thinking about it. Like, it's not like I've set an alarm like, oh,
You
it's
get the
8 o'clock, I
shakes.
gotta go on.
You're like-
yeah. Yeah.
It's 7:57.
You're like, it must be Twitter. Must be Twitter time.
So what will often happen is like that window of time will pass. And I'm like, oops, I missed my Twitter window for today. Now I can use Twitter on desktop. I just tend not to. But if if it's the middle of the day and I want to like respond to messages or whatever, like I can access it there. But I think the addictive behavior tends to happen on the phone. And so that's where I put most of my safeguards.
Don't worry, stackers. We'll link to all of these because we're gonna go on to another one here. I'm gonna skip number 2. I'm gonna mention all 6, but I'm gonna skip number 2 for today, unless you guys really have a lot to say on it. We waste our lives in a state of overwhelm. By the way, he says about that, what's worked for me is instead of thinking, oh my goodness, there's too much on my plate, I ask, what if I started over again with a clean plate? Then which of these things that are overwhelmingly would I actually now knowingly put back on my plate? So he literally cleans his plate and goes, how much of this is really relevant? Turns out that you may be working on the wrong things. But I want to focus here on number 3 on his list, which is we waste our lives with constant indecision. And Jordan, this is kind of where I was going with who we built this episode for. People that are they hear all these great things. They're like, yeah, I should. Yeah, I want to, but they're in this indecisive state. Like, I feel like sometimes we're so busy trying to make the perfect decision that we have trouble making any decision.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a bridge between thought, like I want to do this thing, or I have this plan, or I have this idea, and then success, right? And so we have thought on one side, success on the other. And I think the bridge is momentum, which is doing stuff. And sometimes you need some type of momentum, even if it's the wrong type of momentum, right? And so I think we get stuck in this thing where we figure the first step has to be so right that we never take it. I'm a big fan of momentum. I think what OG was also talking about, this idea of, okay, let's try it and iterate and see what happens. And so I think momentum is key here. And I think it's the antidote to indecision.
Yeah, Paula?
I think if a decision is irreversible and has high stakes, it deserves to have a lot of thought put into it. But if a decision is reversible and or low stakes or both, then 80-20 it and move on. Just do some just do something and move on. And so I think the first question to ask yourself when you're facing any decision is it reversible or is it irreversible? And is it low stakes or high stakes? And then using that 2x2 matrix, go from there.
Oh, gee, sounds like Paula's singing off your song sheet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way of looking at it, Paula. I think if you recognize where the important decisions are, I think there's also a piece about when you're thinking about money in particular. Most of the time, at least in my experience, it's like it's the last thing that you're dealing with, right? Like most people go to work, you get up, if you have kids, you got to deal with that. And then you get to the office and you deal with work, and then you have lunch, and then you have to deal with more work, and then you have to commute home, and then you have to deal with kids and family, and and then you go, oh crap, I also have to do the stupid insurance thing. Or I also have to dang it, this to do of meet with estate planning attorneys been on my sticky note for the last 6 months because it's the last thing that you get to. And so there is a very real thing about decision fatigue that happens later where you just are tired of processing information, just tired of trying to think through everything and just go, I'm going to kick it down the road. And it's a form of procrastination. It's a form of what's that? Stephen Pressfield, what's he call it? Resistance in the War of Art. And so I think that's a form of it. And if you can simplify that or outsource the decisions or just be okay with not making a decision, right? Like those are basically your choices, because effectively not making a choice on something is making a choice. It's just a choice of not doing, whatever it is. But I think, Jordan said we have lots of time and there's tons of space in our calendar and that sort of thing. My son, this is a great example for us. My son is going to college this fall, and this past week was his orientation. And at the orientation, he gets to pick his classes and register and do all these things. And he called me very seriously and was like, Dad, what do I do in school? And I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, I mean, if in school, it's like a class, like it'll be a big room. And he's like, no. On Monday, I go to school from 3 to 3:50. That's it. That's my only responsibility on Monday. On Wednesday looks a lot like Monday, and Friday looks like Wednesday and Monday. So I have 50 minutes of actual class time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Tuesday, it's a really busy day. I go from 10:45 to 12:30. Like, what do I do? And that's a real set. He's like, I have no idea what I'm going to fill my time with. I mean, how great is that to be in the, to be in your youth and have the world as your oyster? I'm like, well, you can work out, you can go eat, you can get a job, you can do, all these things. He's like, I can work like 2 jobs, Dad. I'm like, yes, you could, give that a whirl. But we fill our, we have so much stuff going on. And I think maybe this is the thesis of this whole article here is, it's hard to delineate what the important stuff is unless you're being very intentional about saying, this is what's important to me. It's like, if it's important to you, it's important to you. If being healthy and exercising is important to you, you have 168 hours. There's plenty of people who run successful businesses who are jacked and tan. There's just not, they have the same time.
Yeah. I think Jordan, I like the part that OG said about maybe if you're indecisive for too long, you said this earlier, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe you got to get behind, like, why am I so indecisive?
Be okay with going, I'm just not gonna make a decision with this.
I really connected also with what OJ said about decision fatigue. I mean, I think we're constantly dealing with decision fatigue. So multiple, often small decisions also surrounded with some really big decisions. And so I think one thing we can do to help ourselves is compartmentalize our decisions, right? So instead of making decisions all day long, try to sit down in a quiet place and make some of those important big decisions at once. I think there's also a hierarchy of decisions, right? Sometimes it's actually the big decision you have to make. And once you make the big decision, the little decisions fall in
All the rest of
place.
them are easy.
Yeah. It's like,
Mhm.
so I'm going to fund my 401k. That's like the big decision. And then you can start looking at the little decisions. Like, am I going to do a target date fund or an S&P 500? Am I going to roll it over when I leave my job? All those are kind of smaller decisions that flow from the big one. And so sometimes it just gets so overwhelming, you don't even make the big one, and then the small ones start feeling just incredibly difficult.
I liked Doc what you said there about Joe, about the compartmentalizing it. I was thinking about this also, and I forgot to bring it up earlier. I've made a life decision. I make no decisions about food. I don't want to be asked where to eat. I don't want to be asked, like, if we go out to eat, if we go to a place that I've already been, I already know what I'm going to eat. But if we go to a new place, I just go, oh, what's your favorite? Like, I don't want to have any, and if they go, I go, no, what's your favorite? Like, what's the chef really like to make? What's the best thing that they do here? And they'll go, oh, well, the chef really likes the whatever. I go, bang, do it. And they're like, what if you don't like it? I'm like, it's probably fine. I'm not allergic to anything. So there's no risk of, for some people that is, right? Like my son has a peanut allergy. I don't have a risk of any allergies. My biggest risk is I might not care for it that much. I'm still going to get fed. I'm still going to eat. It just might not be my favorite, which is a risk I'm willing to take.
It's a low stakes decision.
Yeah. People look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, what do you mean you don't have an opinion? I go, I do, but I don't want to waste the energy on this. I think Ramit said he had this about food. He was just like, if you're trying to decide between two things, just get both. Just take some.
That's what I like, because you made the decision once, and once you made the decision, you've made one decision, and it's covering everything. Yeah.
And now I got food for 2 days. They're like,
That's
sir,
right.
you want the steak, fish, and chicken? Yeah. Just bring it, but bring boxes, because I'm bringing half this stuff home.
And that's why I'm overweight right there. I just can't make a decision.
Well,
so I get both.
I do pay for everything. That's my rule. If we go out to dinner, I pay, but I just don't make the decision of where to go. It's just so much easier.
The good news, by the way, I found out, I did check my BMI seriously. And I found out that my BMI is perfect. My body mass index is perfect for a guy who's 9'6". So it turns out that I'm not overweight. I'm actually under height. Yeah, that's the deal. Paula, you were going to say something serious though.
Oh, I was just going to say the decision to not make decisions about certain categories reminds me of Steve Jobs wearing the black turtleneck every day, just so he could eliminate the decision of what do I wear.
I do that too. I don't wear that, but I find like a polo shirt brand that I like, and then I just buy like 10 of them. I go there. Good. Now I have 10 polo shirts. They all, they're same brand, so they're all going to be color,
right?
Consistent with their other brands, basically. So it's like whatever. They all basically match. So I'm fine either way.
I did the same with these hiking shirts I wear almost every day. They're comfortable.
Yeah.
They look good. So
buy 10.
If you happen to go hiking.
And if I go hiking,
and you can go hiking at a moment's notice.
Right. But then my body mass index won't be good for a guy 9'6", and I need to keep growing. So what do you do? There's another take here about indecision. And I love this. This is a podcast that I normally don't listen to. I happen to catch this one episode. It's called the Rich Roll Podcast. Dr. Ellen Langer, who is a professor of psychology at Harvard, said this to Rich Roll. And I have quoted what you're about to hear about 5 bajillion times over the past 12 months since I heard her say it. And here she is. And of course it puts it on mute.
Rather than waste your time being stressed over making the right decision, make the decision right. Randomly choose. Now, you can randomly choose if you want an Almond Joy or a Snickers. Nobody's going to care, right? It's the exact same thing about getting married or not, taking the job or not. You can only live one life. If there was some magical way that I could live a life as somebody who's had 3 kids and somebody who hasn't had kids, maybe I can make a comparison, but you don't have that available to you. So I say to my students, should you go to Harvard or should you go to Yale? So they made a decision to go to Harvard. So let's say it's terrible. Oh, I wish I had gone to Yale. There's no way of knowing that Yale wouldn't have been worse, better, the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why regret is so mindless, because the choice you didn't take, you're presuming, would have been better.
I think that's pretty powerful to me. Instead of
Regret is
wasting,
mindless.
It's-
Sounds like something I would say.
well, instead
To
of
like my
wasting
9-year-old daughter.
time- Yeah, instead of wasting time, OG, overthinking this decision, make the decision and then spend 100% of your time making it right. Make this decision the right decision. Spend a lot of
Yeah,
time backing up the thing that you chose instead of wasting all this mental energy.
Yeah, I have such little fear about making decisions that like it doesn't even resonate with me when people are like, "Oh, what if you make the wrong one?" I'm just like, "Who cares?" Like, what?
I mean,
So
Doesn't
like,
that beg a question, though? I mean, what, in a sense, philosophically, there are probably people who just don't think much about it, like OG, and then there are people who obsess over it. But that probably has nothing to do with the decision itself. It has to deal with some bad thing that happened in the past where they made the wrong decision and now they're still
Right.
kicking themselves.
Right. We're spending so much time regretting the fact that I didn't go to Harvard or I didn't go to Yale or I
Right.
didn't go
Then
to
now every
whatever.
decision in the future becomes clouded.
And I love
you just
Jordan,
need
her
therapy.
thing that you're presuming you knew how that outcome would have gone, and you have no idea how that outcome would have gone. So stop wasting your time on worrying about the outcome that didn't happen or thinking that quote would have been better when you have no clue what would have happened. It could have been way worse. Who knows? What's never worse, though, how about that for a transition, is taking a little pause here at just beyond the halfway point and focusing on our year-long trivia competition. If you're new to the Stacky Benjamin Show, this is the part of the show where we pause in the middle to see which one of our 3 frequent contributors is going to prevail over the other 2 when it comes to this meaningful trivia time. And man, the score not looking good. Although, God, we had a bright spot last week. Jesse actually won last week for OG and Paula, neither of which were here.
The coalition victory.
Yeah, Jesse and Paula have had a coalition, and ever since then, Doc G's won about 15 points for OG while he was gone on his family holiday. But OG, as you come back here, you're leading with 9. Jesse has 6.5. Paula with 5.5. So, Doc G, today, if you can win for Jesse the way you won for OG, we'd appreciate it very much. Paula, if you can win, you and Jesse now tied, and which would be rarefied air.
sorry, what's
Paula?
the score again? I missed it. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, we're not going back.
No, I really didn't hear it, but I'm guessing I'm in the lead by a considerable margin based on everybody's attitude.
Yeah, you can rewind the tape and hear that later. But Doug, you've got today's trivia question. Let's see who's going to win this week. All right, Doug's going to say, "Hey there, Stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and here's a big financial event that happened this week in U.S. history. Earlier this week, back in 1969, the Treasury Department and Federal Reserve announced that several former U.S. bills were being discontinued immediately. U.S. Mint hadn't made any of these bills since the mid-1940s, but they were still accepting them until this very moment. So here's today's question. If you added up the face value of all the bills that were eliminated back this week in 1969, you cashed in one of each bill at the last moment, how much money would you have had?" I'll be back to see if a wooden nickel really was a thing. Joe's mom always says, don't take any wooden nickels. Maybe they were discontinued in 1969. We're about to find out. All right, OG, you go first on this competition. Several different bills were discontinued, but if just before that you cashed in one of each of the discontinued bills, how much money would you have?
I like to basically every bill I get, I just put it in the discontinued pile.
The Verizon bill.
All my bills are discontinued, just like the service on everything that those bills provided.
Isn't it weird?
Sir, your water has been discontinued. I'm like, great, no more bills.
I can't believe one follows the other.
All right, so I have a pretty strong idea about this. I'm just trying to decide if one of them was for reals or not. This is a gamble. I have two answers in my head, and I think one of the two are correct. So I'm gonna guess on one. The question was, if I cashed in every one of the bills, just one of them each, how much would I have cashed in
That's right.
of the discontinued ones? So I'm gonna say the answer is $16,500.
$16,500. So which bills do you think were
I'm not answering that question. Yeah, that's for them to decide. Obviously, the $16,500 bill was discontinued.
Duh. Doc, what are you thinking?
I think it's much higher than that because I'm going to vaguely guess that there's some really high value bill that was discontinued. So as opposed to playing the game, I'm just going to give you what I actually think it could be. I'm going to say $600,021.
$600,000,
which is obviously the $600,021 bill.
Exactly. There's just one of them, and they discontinued it.
Well, it's the $600,000 bill, the $20 bill, and the $1 bill, which Doc hasn't had in his wallet in a long time. Paula, you've got 600,021 and 16,500. What are you thinking?
Okay, so I'm trying to piece together the logic here. So it's obvious that OG believes that there was a $10,000 bill, a $5,000 bill, a $1,000 bill, and a $500 bill. That's how you would arrive at 16,000.
Or whether there was an $8,000 bill, a $7,000 bill, a $750 bill, and two $250 bills. I don't know.
Okay, let's see. So then Doc G must believe that there was a $500,000 bill, a $100,000 bill, and there used to be like a $20 bill.
Something.
Back in the day. I'm losing the logic a little bit on Doc G's guess, other than the 500,000 and the 100,000.
What was I thought I said 621,000, right?
Oh, I thought you said 600,021.
21.
No, 621,000.
621,000. So you believe that there was a $500,000 bill, a $100,000 bill,
a $20,000
bill,
and $1,000,
and then a $1,000 bill. Okay. Well, given that these bills existed in the 1940s when money was worth a lot less, I'm going to bet that the bills were not that big. I'm going to take the under at 16,499.
So you think he's off on one of those bills?
$99 bill. The off to use $400 bill also.
Right. All right. Let's see. We got 6,500, 6,499, and 621,000. Let's see who's right. We'll be right back. All right. 3, 2, 1. OG, you opened this up with 16,500. Paula thinks you had a $10,000 bill, 5,000, 1,000, and 500. Would she be correct?
Yeah. The question that I have is, because I know those are all bills. I don't know whether or not the author of the question is also assuming the $100,000 bill, which was only used for interbank transfers. So the question leads me to believe that the author does not believe that, because he said if you could turn it in, which a person could not have turned it in because a person could not have a $100,000 bill. Only banks could have it. So that's why I eliminated that. If we do include the 100, then I think there's a $100,000 bill also that was discontinued. So
Doc, how you feeling? You think he's making all this up?
I don't know. I took a wild guess. I think that there have been some large bills made. I don't know if they're in circulation. Maybe it was AI and they never existed, but I have nothing to lose here. It's my birthday, and B, I've won a bunch for Josh or OG. So I've got nothing to lose here.
But you need to win for Jesse. That the goal is to win for Jesse.
I'm not your trick pony. I can only do
the F and G. Yeah.
And Paula, you took the under.
Well, if we go by the logic that these were that these were the olden days, um, I think the under is a safe bet. But I don't
Which
know. We'll see.
really 1969. I mean, who was born then? Oh my God, I was. All right, let's see. Going back to the olden days, I want to flip Paul off right now. Let's see who's right on this one. Doug. Hey there, stackers. I'm Coin Collector, but also the guy who's not buying your wooden nickels, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Several bills were last printed up on the U.S. Mint's Xerox machine or whatever they used way back in 1945. But it was earlier this week in 1969, they shut the whole shebang down. But if you turned in just one of the bills that had been discontinued just before they were no longer legal tender, how much cash would you have had? Because there was a $10,000 bill, a $5,000 bill, a $1,000 bill, and a $500 bill discontinued. That means the number 16,500 and OG wins
Woohoo!
Wow.
again.
Perfect. Wow. Nice.
Wow.
But technically, so I would also,
Very nice.
well, should I walk myself out of the win based
No.
on the reading of the answer? So technically, they are all still legal tender. So if you have a $1,000 bill, you're still welcome to use it. You'd be a fool because they're worth, so much more to collectors.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
Yeah.
And
there was also a $100,000 bill only used for interbank transfer, which is why
You're
I
right,
didn't
though.
include that.
Who is
I'm
on
sorry.
the $1,000 bill?
McKinley, I believe. No,
Ooh.
no, McKinley was on the 500.
Like,
Maybe Hamilton.
Shouldn't we be stacking these?
Yes.
I know, right?
Yes.
Grover
Yeah.
Cleveland was on
Cleveland.
the $1,000
Yeah,
bill.
there you go. Cleveland was on the
Stacking
1,000.
Cleveland's.
Who look up real
Hello,
quick the
Cleveland.
$5,000 and $10,000 ones while you're at
Who
it.
was on the 5? Oh, you don't think I just came up with that?
Yeah. Nope, I don't.
500 was McKinley,
500 is McKinley. Yep.
and the 1,000 or wait,
Yeah,
what am I looking up?
The
What am I looking up
5,000 and
now?
10,000.
The 100,000 was Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, stacking Wilson.
5,000 was James Madison,
Obviously.
and the 10,000 was Salmon P. Chase.
Whoever
How about
that
that?
is.
On the most common $10,000 bill series. So there must have been more. He was a politician, former Chief Justice of the United States, and former Secretary of the Treasury. So there you go. Salmon P. Chase.
Is
for
he
the
the,
win.
the Chase of Chase Bank? Is he Mr. Chase?
I don't know. Was he the chaser or the
I
chase?
don't know.
I have a Chasey. I don't know.
I know, or the chasey. I don't know. All I know is we're going to chase this down with the second half of today's discussion, which we are going over. For those of you with short-term memory loss, we are going over the top 6 ways to waste a life. And a number 4 on here is something that we've kind of talked about in passing, Doc, which is we waste our lives fearing failure, right? We're afraid, and we brought this up on the whole, overwhelm with indecision about decision fatigue, but we fear failure. How do you get around this fear that this is all going to end up failing?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to fail is not to try, right? So I guess you can assure failure by not even trying, or you can try and you might succeed, you might fail. I mean, honestly, as we all probably have thought about before, often getting to the goal isn't what makes us happy. A lot of times it's kind of the valiant fight in between to get to the goal. So it's actually in the trying that I think we live through some of our greatest moments. And
Are you
so
saying hustle culture would be really productive because we're trying more often?
I don't think hustle culture and trying are the same thing. Hustle culture. So again, if you really want to get into this, what we're talking about is the difference between what I would call little p purpose, process-oriented purpose versus hustle culture. So in process-oriented purpose, what I call little p purpose, you love the process. It lights you up. The problem with hustle culture is most of the time you actually don't like the process. Hustle culture is about hustling, grinding, often doing things you don't want to do in celebration of a goal you could possibly make. And so its process is important, but the question is, does the process light you up or does it exhaust you? And that's my
Well,
problem with hustle culture.
no,
So I
and
think
I
the
did-
process exhausts you.
and I 100% did want to get into this, which is why we invited you today. But we talk about fearing failure as you're describing Little P Purpose. It also becomes very apparent that if you love the process, Jordan, the
Doesn't
fear of
matter.
failure goes away because who cares?
It doesn't matter. Right? You want to fill your life with things you enjoy doing. You can, and I always tell people this and they never get it. I always say that Little P Purpose, is process oriented, not goal oriented. So people like, I can't have big goals. No, of course you can have big goals. You can have even big, audacious goals. But if you don't enjoy the process of doing whatever you do to have to get to that goal, if you hate the process, then you're wasting your time.
Paula, you
But-
put a lot of stuff
Mhm.
out there that that is meant to help a large number of people.
Mhm.
It doesn't always resonate. Like, how do you avoid just fearing that this won't go over the way you'd hoped?
I think the question is, am I coming to, am I, whatever it is that I'm stating, am I stating it from a place of integrity? Am I stating it from a place of honesty? And am I actively working on um, the skill of being able to communicate as clearly as possible? And so long as I'm doing those things, then I think it's all stemming from the right spot.
That also kind of eliminates the fear of failure because you're just doing your best to help people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think also, with fear of failure, I think so many goals have an ambiguous, like, benchmark of achievement, that rather than have one very specific fixed quantitative benchmark, if you just think of the goal as the quote unquote goal as like a series of little, micro goals or mini goals, then there is no failure because you're continually making progress. There are very few things short of winning a competition where there is a very delineated like winner or loser. For most things, you make an impact in a zone, and for that there's never a done, and there's never really a loss so long as some impact has been made.
Was there something else you were going to say? I think I cut you off when you were getting ready to
Oh,
jump in on Jordan's.
well, I was actually going to question Doc G on some element of what he said, because for anything that you do, there are going to be aspects of the process that you dislike. Like, I'm never going to enjoy checking email, ever. But for pretty much anything that I would ever want to do, email is going to be part of it. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matter of, is it worth the gain you get from doing the thing you don't like, right? So I love podcasting. For me, podcasting is Little P Purpose. I don't always love editing, right? But the overall joy I get from making the podcast, putting it together and getting it to people makes editing worthwhile enough. Now, if it ever got to the point where I hated editing so much and the process of doing it was so bad that it overshadowed the overall good of enjoying the process, then I'd stop doing it. But it's a continuum for sure. And so I think there is nuance in the sense to say that we're going to all spend our lives only doing things we love is pretty silly. Like, sometimes in service of something we love, we may spend some time doing things that we don't love. But overall, the balance should be that you're generally doing things you like. And as you get older and more wealthy and more successful, the things you don't like doing should decrease. And the things you love doing should increase. So when you are financially independent or you are the head of the firm, you can hire someone to do the things you don't like. If I'm Joe Rogan, I'm hiring someone to edit my podcast, right? And so that's the goal. And I think it is a continuum.
The last one I want to cover on this list, and by the way, there is one more, number 6 on the list we won't cover today, which is we waste our lives with a lack of self-discipline. And I think that mirrors a lot of the things that we already talked about today. But I do want to end today's discussion on
Except
this
I would
one.
say, hold on, I'm just going to jump in on that one.
Sure.
I think that you already have the discipline. You're just disciplined to do other things.
Well, it's
think when
funny you
people
say that,
say,
OG,
like, they're
because
not-
guess the one I want to focus on says we waste our lives being busy but not productive, which sounds like kind of where you're headed.
Well, I was just going to say, when people say like, well, I just, I lack the discipline to do it, or if somebody points out you don't have any self-discipline, it's like, no, I'm very self-disciplined into my existing habits, which includes rising at 7:45, at the crack of 7:45 every day. It's like, well, you're just not self-disciplined in the morning. Like, BS, man, I get up the same time every day. I just don't get up at 5:30. Some people would look at getting up at 5:30 as, man, look how late you're getting up. You're not self-disciplined. 3:30 is what time you should be getting up to go do your jog. Now, I know I have a friend of mine who was training for a triathlon, and he down here in Texas, and he got up at 3:30 in the morning so that he could run in the middle of the night, because it's so effing
So
hot
hot.
during any other part of the day, that the coolest part of the day, where it's only 89, is from 3:30 until sunrise. And so he would bang out his 3 hours of running in the middle of the night. And then he would sleep, take a big, long 4-hour nap during the middle of the afternoon. Somebody might look at that and go, what a lazy SOB, sleeping during the middle of the day, So anyways, you're self-disciplined into your existing habits, I think.
Well, and
But,
this is Jordan. I'll come back to you, Josh, in a second. But
Yeah.
Jordan, this is 100% what you're talking about loving the process versus the hustle. Hustle culture is, sleep when you're dead, get up at 3:30. OG's point is, I love sleeping till 7:30. That's discipline.
Yeah. And again, this is, I think, what initially, to bring it full circle, I think this is what initially bothered me about the article and this idea of hustle cultures. It's someone else pretty much defining what self-discipline is for you. So what we're saying is that a lot of people are saying that they're busy all the time. And then this gets back to what OG said is, well, you're busy doing what you've planned to do. Now that might be productive, quote unquote, or non-productive, but it's what you've chosen. But only you can decide what productive is or not. I think
that's
society has
the biggest
this
thing.
idea of what productive is, and I think it's wrong. I think you decide what's productive. There are a lot of people who actually want to do some things and never get to it because they say they're busy. But again, I think that gets back to the American Time survey. I think people have this idea that they're busy, but they're just distracted.
I was
OG?
just gonna say, Jordan, for that. I mean, ultimately, the biggest piece out of all of this is that you have to take the ownership and recognize that you're in charge. And as soon as you do that, as soon as you say, I am choosing to, you have complete control over everything. Like, I can't say, well, there's just not enough time for me to work out. Like, I'll just have to be fat. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's BS. I'm just choosing to spend my time watching TV. And you know what? And if that's what I want to do, and that's what brings me joy, and I'm okay with the consequences of that, like, cool, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't owe me an explanation. I don't owe you an explanation of what I do. But I think some of this, what you're talking about, and I think what I think maybe frustrates you, Jordan, about some of this stuff is it's like other people's vision of what your life should look like. And it's like, no, man, I'm gonna do me, you do you. And now I can't complain about me and say, well, it's not my fault that I'm fat. Right. It's like, well, hold on a second. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't be, like, I'm gonna sit around and take ownership of like not doing anything, but then also be mad that I'm out of shape. Right. It's like, well, you got to take it all. If you're gonna take some, you got to take it all.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it comes down to, at least for me, is the real self-discipline is not about what you do or don't do. It's about accepting agency, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
The
And
real
as soon as you do
self-discipline
that,
is saying I have agency to do or not to do. And no one else can define that for you. And this is always the problem I have with hustle culture. Someone else has decided what a societal belief of what self-discipline is and what you should be doing, and you should be hustling towards it. And that's where I kind of go awry.
And doesn't this whole thing, like busy versus productive, isn't productive mean it's in pursuit of your goal? So if you start with the goal and work backwards, you can discern what's productive and what's just busy and what's not. Because I feel like when I'm busy but I'm not productive, it's because I'm doing a bunch of crap that doesn't meet my value system of where I see myself headed.
You know, within your question, I'm thinking a little bit about the distinction between efficiency versus effectiveness.
Mm.
Like, are you efficient or are you
You can
effective?
you can be efficient but not effective.
Right, right. And I think there's echoes. I think the two kind of that echoes what you've also asked about, busy versus productive. Um, because yeah, I think that ultimately the question is, all right, what's the goal? What's the mission? Like, what are we working towards? What are we trying to achieve here? Uh, and then every subsequent question is this not just does this have any benefit, but is this the highest ROI way to approach that?
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Because a lot of times you can be doing things that might hypothetically have some conceivable benefit towards it, but that doesn't mean that it's the optimal use of your limited resources as you pursue that.
Mark says in this piece, when I catch myself busily working on the wrong things, I stop and ask myself what my most important tasks are for the day. The point you just made.
Mhm.
I go back to wiping my plate clean of everything but the essential. Sometimes there's just one key task project and sometimes there's a few, but in any case, I ask myself, am I working on it? The answer is no. It's time to get back on track, which assumes, by the way, that we actually put a plan together ahead of time, right?
Mm.
That we actually took the time to go, this is truly what's important. And that's what's not. And that's what we spent this entire week trying to get at,
Mm.
which is focus on those things that are most important.
Yeah, I just want to make the point though, if you are continuously finding that you're not doing the most important task and you're filling your life with busyness, I think you got to flip that around and say, why is that the most important task?
You
And
got to
maybe
go up
there's a
the,
reason I'm avoiding it. Because again, I think as we go through life, you eventually want to align what you spend most of your time
Yeah.
with also being the most important to you. And so this is the luxury of hopefully age and wealth and some of the freedom we get as we get older, is those two things should really start looking the same. And if they're not, then maybe the goal for the day is what's wrong and not that you're busy doing other things.
yeah, swim back upstream and see if the goal setting is actually accurate.
Yeah. And again, I agree. You're 22 years old or 23, you just got married, you have a little baby. Yeah. Sometimes the goal for the day is make money, even if it doesn't light you up. But hopefully, as we get a little bit older and we get a little bit, quote unquote, a little more well off, we can start aligning those things much better.
I think it's a great place for us to leave it and leave this week that started off with going back through the last 6 months and some of the great mentors we've had, some of the great messages and asking, are you actually working on any of these things? And then on Wednesday, talking about setting goals using the SMART goal system that we've all heard of. And it works for the Navy and it works for big companies, but we go, yeah, this SMART idea. I don't know. Gary really puts it into perspective. And then I love, Jordan, actually you bring in Birthday Boy. I love you bringing in the hustle culture. And I think we were able to avoid that, but still go, am I doing what truly lights me up? What lights me up is hearing about the brilliant work that all you are doing. Let's start off with OG. Big plans this weekend, my friend.
Ooh, I am in Lost Wages this week, and it's a great time to be there. It's the summer in the desert.
Las
I mean,
Vegas.
who doesn't want to be there July 17th or whatever the day is? Nope,
Yeah,
got a little bit of a conference that I'm at, and gonna come home tomorrow from it.
Excellent. Well,
And then we're going to
hope
Park
you're-
City, which is a different side of the mountain, which will
Yeah, right.
be even better.
Well, I hope you're winning lots of money while you're in Vegas.
Oh, no casino trip for me. Nope, this is a work trip. Sorry. Unfortunately,
that.
no fun. This is all business, all hustle.
Paula, what's
grind.
going on at the business / casino we call? I'm trying to do these segues and they're not working. Called Afford Anything. What's going on there?
We have a 2-part interview with JL Collins, the author of The Simple Path to Wealth.
Never heard of him. Jail who?
Exactly. The guy who pretty much coined VTSAX and chill. So we've got a 2-part interview with him on the Afford Anything podcast. We talked for a total of almost 2 hours between the 2 episodes.
He's a guy that even at 2 hours, I feel that's not enough. I'm like,
Right.
I could talk to that guy for 7 hours.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So fantastic. So tune in to a great two-parter with Paula on Afford Anything. Jordan, happy birthday again, my friend.
Yeah, I've just decided today that it's going to go from being my birthday day to my birthday week. So that's what I'm going to do this
Nice.
weekend. Is we're going to
Ooh.
celebrate me the whole weekend.
I do a birthday month, Jordan, so I don't blame you.
This might as well be a birthday year. Like
I
every
feel like-
Let's not get crazy.
Yeah. OG and Paula, don't you feel like he made it his birthday day today on the show? I mean, he totally did.
You know what I want for my birthday? That $500,000 bill that went out. That's what I really want, along with the $100,000 one too.
I think you want the $621,000 bill that you quoted earlier.
I would have been just as close to right with that one than the 500 and the 100.
Well, it's good to see you're back to your old ways on your birthday, missing it by a factor of a lot.
500,000, yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. What's going on at Earn and Invest?
So you guys heard me mention hustle culture here. It has been on my mind because I did a 10 Things episode about hustle culture in preparation for my interview of a lady named Sky Watterson, who is an ADHD coach. And so she coaches people on how to build businesses and how to survive corporate America when you have ADHD. And some of that is hustle. And that's why I wanted to talk about hustle culture. Something's just been on my mind a lot lately.
It's funny though, a lot of people undiagnosed ADHD. I think that's good for anybody. I mean, we all get distracted, even if you don't have ADHD. And I know looking at, listening to some of those podcasts have been so very, very helpful. And partially just to know there's other people out there that have the same, squirrel?
Yeah, I mean, and it's always hard to differentiate, right? We know at the extremes, anything is bad. But for some people, ADHD is a feature and not a bug, right? That's what helps them jump from thing to thing to thing and can make them incredibly successful entrepreneurs. On the other hand, being an incredibly successful entrepreneur is also being organized and hiring and firing people and running a business. And sometimes that doesn't always go so well with ADHD.
Mm.
Lastly, I want to thank everyone who hung out with us today on YouTube. We didn't announce we were coming on a day later than usual. Normally, we're here, Wednesdays or Thursdays, late in the afternoon Eastern time. So come join us. And it's always fun seeing who's with us. Unfortunately, we didn't spend a lot of time talking to people today, but they were certainly chatting with us a little bit. Elwinda's here and said, I just logged on. Paula, what's that amphibious beast in the water next to you? You had a guest who was a little silent today.
This is my turtle. His name is Joffrey. He's a yellow belly slider turtle. So yes, he's right here in the tank next to us. He's been part of this taping.
That's what we call OG, the yellow belly slider. Yeah. Carlos says hello from
my
North
nickname in
Carolina. A dam from Baltimore, but he says it's dam from Balmer because the T is silent, OG, much like in the word often, which you have to be a Stacky Benjamins fan to know about the often debate that we had here. We talk about very serious
Did Doug
stuff.
say it wrong? Is that why? Is that what he's talking about? I have selective memory.
Yes, Doug called it often. And it turns out you said that, no, that's not correct. And Dan agrees with you. And Bjorn is here with us and says, Doug is awesome. Brandon, let's go, OG. Congratulations, OG. And Jeff likes watching the sausage get made and likes it when he sees behind the scenes when I go 3, 2, 1. Mike hanging out. Happy birthday to Doc G. Leisure enthusiast. Yo, Doc G, just realized you write some great articles for Psychology Today. Had to ask my wife, is this the same Doc G that frequents Stacking Benjamins? And it is.
It is. In fact, I was just in the Psychology Today magazine. They did a big push on purpose. And there's a side column with all the ideas about Big P and Little P purpose. So check it out if you happen to get Psychology Today magazine.
Lots more discussion, but come hang out with us. Everybody had a great chat today, and we thank you guys for hanging out with us on YouTube as we made it. All right, Doug, you've got it from here, man. What's stacked up on our to-do list today? All right, guys, I just need a couple from you. We'll go to Paula first. First, take some advice from Paula. Paula, what's that one thing you said earlier that really resonated with everybody?
A rocking horse is always in motion, but it never gets anywhere. And that's what it is to be busy but not productive.
I don't think you actually said that, but that you should have said that. Hey, birthday boy, what's that thing that you said that was so amazing earlier in the show?
Oh boy, I said so many amazing things. I can't remember any of them. I think what I said is that agency is the real self-discipline. So I think we need to take hold of responsibility for our decisions, whether we want to call them productive or not.
And then Doug will say, but the big lesson when talking about money, don't share with Joe's mom all the money that's no longer in circulation, because she'll demand that the $20 you owe her from last week's trip to the Sizzler gets back into circulation into her pocket pronto. On an unrelated note, OG, can I borrow $20? And then thank you to everybody. All right, guys, it's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you all later. See you next time.